Assalamualaikum and good morning. Today our group will present about the financial provision of Federal Constitution and Financial Procedures Act 1957. First, we are going to look at the financial provision of the Federal Constitution. In this provision, there are 17 articles which specified in Article 96 to Article 112. This provision act as the basis of managing the financial aspect of the government. Okay, now we should know the objective of this financial provision. Okay, first, the objective is to establish the general framework of the control and of public expenditure by the legislator. Next, it provides a good financial management system, and it also defines the borrowing powers of federal and state government, and it also provide the guideline on the preparation of the budget and financial statement.
Next, I will explain about the revenue in the federal constitution. Basically, federal government and state government have their own source of revenue. Generally, federal government, the revenue of federal government are larger as compared to state government. The revenue that belongs to the federal government are provided under Article 96 of the Federal Constitution. Article 96 stated that no tax or rate shall be levied by or for the purpose of the federation except authorized by the federal law. And also, all proceeds of revenue are due to the federal government except those that are assigned to the state, and also those that are collected by the local authority or also religious department. And the revenue that belongs to the state government are provided under Article 110, where 110 subsection 1, where it stated that the state shall receive all proceeds from the tax, fee and other source of revenue. And also 110 subsection 3, the state shall receive 10% or more of the export duty on tin. And subsection 3A of the Article 110, it stated that state also shall receive certain proportion of the export duty from other mineral. And in addition, the Part 3 of the 10th Schedule of the Federal Constitution provide a list of revenues assigned to the state government, where you can refer to in the textbook on the page 99. State government also receive an annual assistance from federal government in terms of grant. There are two types of grant, which are statutory grant and also non-statutory grant. The four major types of grant provided to the state government are capitation grant, state road grant, state reserve fund, and also revenue growth grant. The first grant is the capitation grant, which is provided under Article 109 subsection 1 subsection A. This grant is to assist the states in their operating expenditure, and the computation of the capitation grant is based on the population of the particular state. And subsection 2 of the Article 109 stated that the rate can be changed, but the reduction should not be lesser than the 90% of the previous year. And the next grant is the state road grant, which is provided under subsection 1 subsection B. This grant is the purpose is to maintaining the state roads in the state. The state roads mean any public road other than federal road that the public has access and maintenance of the state road. And the third grant is the state reserve fund, which is provided under Article 109 subsection 6, which this grant is to assist the state government that had deficit in their current account and had implement the development throughout the Malaysia. And the last grant is the revenue growth grant, which is provided under Article 109. This grant is given to the state government whenever there is an increase by more than 10% in the revenue of the federation in any financial year as compared to the preceding financial year. And the non-statutory grant is contribution in acts of rates, assistance, payment for service rendered, advance to state government, and also loans to state government. That's all from me.
Okay, now we move on to borrowing. Borrowing is strictly regulated because it will increase the public debts, and it will also have a major implications on the government's objectives. So, Article 111 provided that federal can only borrow under the authority of the federal law, while the states can only borrow from federal and bank or financial institution for a period of less than 5 years. It also states that states are restricted from giving guarantee except it is authorized by the state law and the federal government. Section 112B also provided about Sabah and Sarawak, where the states can borrow under the authority of the state law. However, this is only applicable if it is approved by Bank Negara Malaysia. Now, we move on to control and management of fund. So, the consolidated fund is used to administer and regulate the Constitution's financial provision. Article 97 provided that monies received and the revenues raised by the federal and state shall be paid into the consolidated fund of federal and state. This is not including the religious revenues. And then the Article 104 provided that no money shall be withdrawn without the provision by the federal law. Now, let's move on to National Financial Council, or NFC. For NFC, Article 108 provided the purpose of NFC, which is to provide a venue in which the representative from federal and state to meet to discuss various issues concerning about the financial aspect of both parties. Now, let's move on to Auditor General. The financial statements are to be audited by the Auditor General. This is to help promote and enhance the accountability of the among the public officers. So Article 105, it discusses about the appointment and reappointment of Auditor General, which is to be made by YDPA upon the advice of Prime Minister. Article 98 talk about the remuneration of Auditor General, which is charged to the consolidated fund. Article 106 discuss the powers and duties of Auditor General, which is to audit. And lastly, Article 107 is regarding about the submission of the audit report. And last but not least is special provision for Sabah and Sarawak. This is provided in the Article 112, which it talks about the admission of report on the account by Auditor General, and also it states that any borrowing should get approval from the central bank.
Okay, next is expenditure. Expenditure is divided into two, which is development expenditure and operating expenditure. For operating expenditure, it has 6 articles in it. Okay, first, Article 98 is for the charge expenditure. This charge expenditure, including any grant remuneration or other money charged by other article of federal law, shall be charged to the consolidated fund. Okay, for the example of the charge expenditure is pension, compensation for the loss of job, and gratitudes. Okay, this expenditure can be spent without the approval from the parliament. Okay, next, Article 100 is for the supply expenditure. Supply bill needs to be passed in order to this expenditure can be authorized, and after it's authorized, it will be the supply act. Okay, next, Article 101 is the supplementary expenditure. Supplementary expenditure is the additional budget for the supply expenditure, and the estimate need to be presented to the parliament. Okay, for Article 102, it is for the unusual urgency, and the example for the expenditure in Article 102 is natural disaster. Article 103 for the contingent fund, and this expenditure is for the unforeseen expenditure, example in the airline industry. Okay, lastly, Article 109 of Federal Constitution is other expenditure to the federal government are grant. Okay, I will proceed with the budget and financial statement. Budget is a tool for controlling and managing the public money, while financial statement is an avenue for the government to prove its performance. In Article 99, Subsection 1, federal government must submit the statement of estimate receipt and expenditure and financial of statement of asset and liability. Okay. Article 99, Subsection 4, it requires financial statement to show clearly how the assets are invested or held, and the liability and the purpose of the liabilities. Article 100 of Federal Constitution is the expenditure. Expenditure need to include it in the supply bill, and when it's approved, it's known as the supply act. And lastly, Article 101 of Federal Constitution is the supplementary budget. It is addition of supply bill that need to be submitted to the Parliament.
Okay, now let's move on to Financial Procedure Act 1957. Firstly, the objectives. The objectives are to provide guidelines for control and management of public finance. Other than that is to provide financial and accounting procedure. Next is to enforce provision of federal constitution relating to finance. And last but not least is to provide guidelines on collection, custody and payment of public monies.
Okay, so now I'll be presenting about the definition of terms under Section 3 of the Financial Procedures Act 1957. So for the first one is financial authority. As you all know, there are two types of funds, which is the federal fund and the state consolidated fund. Both of these need to be authorized by a certain body. So for the federal fund, it needs to be authorized by the Treasury, and for the state fund, it is authorized by the State Financial Authority or any principal officer that is authorized by them. The next one is financial year. So a financial year is any 12 months which will end on 31st December of any year. So next is the public monies. So what are public monies? Public monies are all revenues, loan, trust and monies received by the government. However, they do not include any of the Muslim revenues, which are zakat and zakat fitrah and zakat and any other zakat. So next from the definitions are the public stores. So public stores are chattels, which are they are in possession of the government, of the federal government or any of the other state governments. And the final one is accounting officer. So accounting officer is any public officer which have the duty of collecting, receiving or accounting and disbursing of the public monies. They are also charged with the receipt and the custody of the public stores. Okay, so under section 4, the duties of the accounting officer are to keep the books and render any accounts which are prescribed and authorized by the Treasury. So now I will be presenting to you about the consolidated funds of the federal government. So under section 7 of the Financial Procedures Act 1957, there are three types of funds, which are the consolidated revenue fund, the consolidated loan account and the consolidated trust account. So for the consolidated revenue account, or CRA, they are all the revenues received by the government except which do not include the loans or any of the Muslim revenues. So for the CLA, It is the all domestic or external borrowings by the government, which is used for housing development fund or the development of the or any of the development fund, or to pay off any of the previous loans. And finally, the CTA or the consolidated trust account is any revenue received which falls under any of the specific law. An example of this is the refund of the deposits. Okay, so next I will be explaining to you about the financial procedures. So number one is the payment of monies. This falls under section 13 of the FPA. So payment of money is any money withdrawn by the government which will need a warrant. So a warrant is a letter of authorization which is authorized by the minister or the state minister. So next is the estimates, which falls under section 15. So estimates are prepared in order to show clearly the deviation between the division and subdivisions, and they are prepared in order to show the expected revenue and expected expenditure of the following year. So for the next one is virements. So virements falls under section 15 subsection 4. So virements are the transfer of money between two departments which is under the same minister. And finally, write-offs. So under section 17, the minister has the authority to write off any expenditure that they incur during their time. So next one, I will be explaining to you about the yearly statement of accounts. So under section 16, the government needs to prepare 3 annual statements, which are the CRA, the CLA, and the CTA. They need to be authorized by the Auditor General. Okay, so next is the custody and investment of the public fund. So under section 8, all money paid to the consolidated fund should be kept in the banks according to the requirements of the treasury. All interest received from the investment goes to the CRA, except for the revenue received from trust fund. So under section 8 subsection 3A, monies of the federation may be invested in various ways, which however they want. However, under section 8 subsection 3B, the investment of the state public money needs to follow the state law and the federal law. They also need to be authorized by the minister. That's all.